Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about the gender bias in healthcare because I think it directly goes into why so many of us women had such a shitty experience in the hospital system. I do believe that, nurses do go into that healthcare because they generally care about people, but obviously also money. Right now, there is a nurse shortage, so I believe, a lot more incidences are going to happen just because of negligence in general. And this piece, I printed it out from www.bestlawyers.com /lawyers Sarah King. So I think it's very interesting because basically she says more than 250,000 Americans die each year as a result of preventable medical errors. According to a 2016 study, which was only 6 years ago, by Johns Hopkins University, such errors are now the third leading cause of death in the U.S. after heart disease and cancer. So, yet the Association of American Medical Congress notes that only about 17,000 of these medical malpractice claims are actually filed annually, which is so true. So 17,000 out of 250,000, that means that's so little amount of people actually think that they deserve better care, or they didn't even realize that negligence was going on, or at all. So I think that's really, really disheartening and something that we need to pay attention to more, especially as women who go through birth, labor. Even if you're going through a C-section, that's a whole lot of medical stuff going on with you, and you need to be aware of, that it is possible that negligence might happen during your stay at the hospital. So, medical malpractice is a form of negligence in which errors, omissions, incorrect, or delayed diagnosis, and often systemic breakdowns cause patients injuries or death. Injured patients or the families of deceased patients bring civil lawsuits to obtain compensation for both economic losses, such as future medical expenses, non-economic losses, such as pain and suffering resulting from their injuries. Now, one thing I will say is that nurses, their hours to work are ridiculous. Working 12-hour a day shifts, it to me it's literally the recipe to fuck up. Like, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna mess up if you're working 12-hour day shifts. And usually nurses are only working 3 days, 4 days a week. But nonetheless, 12 hours, like as a massage therapist, I've been a massage therapist for 6 years. Our full time as a massage therapist, because it is physically, mentally demanding, is 6 hours a day, because I'm literally touching people, connecting with them. I'm getting their energy attached onto me. I'm releasing energy. So interesting enough, when I first started massage, my job was like so exhausting to me that I had to completely change my diet. I had to completely change my workout routine because it was so exhausting. And I can't even imagine working 12-hour day shifts, having I don't know how many patients at a time, and I don't even know their break system, but that sounds like the recipe for malpractice. As the numbers indicate, average Americans endure hundreds of thousands of cases every year. Women, in particular, are at high risk of being victims of medical malpractice and device related negligence. Reasons range from gender bias in the healthcare system, racial bias, and which patients with conditions specific to women are diagnosed and treated, to device manufacturers push unsafe products on the market. Okay, yeah, so if a medical device has been approved, like literally 80% of the time it's approved for men, and as we know, men are different than women biologically, right? So if this product was created for men, then why are we why do we think it's going to work for women when it's literally created for men, and men are made differently biologically? So that's what that device related negligence is about. I do believe that there is a lot of gender bias in the healthcare system when it comes to women. We're just not heard. You know, we're not respected. We're not heard, especially now with Roe versus Wade. Now we can't even have bodily autonomy when it comes to keeping a pregnancy or not keeping a pregnancy. Um, Shedding light on these fixable issues and biases within our healthcare system, current procedures, tools, and medical practices, investigations, and lawsuits can make the system safer for all patients. So, in my videos, I do have a video about, well, I have a whole on the Jaguar Society. I have in the prenatal care a whole list of examples of malpractice when it comes to maternity care. It was provided to me by a good friend, and she is actually becoming a lawyer. So I just asked for a favor. She could gather some resources, and she did. It's on there. If you want to look at the link in the bio, I should have that information on there. You just need to sign up for the course. I believe it's $30, but I have all that information there. And so, the implicit gender bias in healthcare. Most of us want to believe gender bias doesn't exist in medical care, which is all about improving health and keeping people alive and healthy. However, when it comes to receiving adequate treatment, proper medications, and even timely and correct diagnosis of illnesses, studies suggest that women frequently get treated differently, often worse than men. According to a 2015 study conducted by Public Library of Science, women are more likely to wait longer than men for a diagnosis. And because we have higher pain tolerance, that totally makes sense, because we're often trying to be like, oh, we're fine, we're fine. At the same time, our higher, besides the people pleasing, our higher tolerance for pain will literally have us thinking like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Whereas now we know that cramps and PMS and the symptoms that we feel and the pain that we feel during our period is actually as painful as having a heart attack. So people think we're making a big deal, that we're just bitching because they don't understand. People, I mean men don't understand that when it comes to your period, it sucks and it hurts. And now we know that the pain is actually the same as a heart attack. So, if you don't know how it feels to be in someone's shoes, it's very hard to understand how it is to be in someone's shoes, right? That's why they say walk a mile in someone's shoes, because if you don't understand someone's perspective, if you don't respect them as a person because they're just so different than you, how are you going to be able to see eye to eye, right? How are you going to be able to see eye to eye when you don't understand their experiences, right? And a lot of these older men with Roe versus Wade, they're not going to understand our experiences. They're like over 60, and apparently some of them are actually being given medication for dementia. So that's a new thing that we've had to learn this recently. Back to the study, it says that the Public Library of Science study found that a statistically significant wait time for women between the onset of symptoms and diagnosis for 6 out of 10 cancer types. So women just wait it out. We're just like suffering in silence, basically. A discussion following the study data highlights the fact that symptoms should not be overlooked by healthcare professionals based on the patient's gender only. Okay. Not only that, but they suggest that women presenting complaints in is unspecific pain, the complaint is often attributed to mental illness. So, yeah, Mary, Sally, Jessica, you're just anxious. That's why you're feeling this pain. You're just depressed. You're like, how many times have we heard that, in our female circles? Like, women saying so easily, oh, I'm depressed, I'm anxious, I have ADHD, oh, I have this, I have that. You know, we're like self-diagnosing and shit, but we're not actually telling them specifically, this is how I feel, this is the pain. Like, having descriptions for your pain is so important, and having descriptions of how exactly you're feeling to these doctors is so important. So, noting that female chronic pain patients were more likely to be diagnosed with histrionic disorder, excessively emotionally, and attention seeking behavior compared to male chronic pain patients. Okay. So basically, they're just saying you guys have histrionic disorder, which means you're excessive emotional and you are exuding attention seeking behavior. And this is being diagnosed more for women than men. This is not a new phenomenon. In the 1990s, Social Science and Medical Medicine published an article that found depression may be diagnosed in 30 to 50% of male patients. Going even further back, in 1986, researchers for American Family Physicians studied patients with organic neurological disorders who had initially been diagnosed with hysteria. They identified the characteristics that made a patient vulnerable to a misdiagnosis. One was having a prior diagnosis of a psychiatric disorder, another being a woman. There are consequences to this gender bias. The adverse consequences of incorrect diagnosis range from unnecessary expenditures of a woman's resources to potentially life-threatening medical conditions. Um, Medical treatment specific to pregnancy, breast, and cervical. So that's the issue, right? So women themselves don't know how to correctly explain what exactly is going on in their bodies. And then the other point is, you know, we're also taught not to complain, you know, to people please. We're taught not to make a big deal out of stuff. And so, because that is so prevalent in my culture and Latino culture as well, you know, like, estás bien, you're fine, you know, just take a Tylenol, whatever, like, you'll be fine. There's a lot of brushing over, you know, and a lot of women are dying of cancers and things like that because they're just not explaining how they feel. For me personally, I had a cancer scare when I was 21 and I had to get it removed from my body, and only because I went to the doctors every single year and I got a pap smear and I did feel off, you know. The only reason I felt something was off or different or not okay, I went to the doctors and then they did the exam, the pap smear, and then they gave me a second exam because it was abnormal. After that, they did a biopsy. They took a biopsy, they took a piece of my cervix. They confirmed that I had stage 3 cancer cells, which had not become tumors yet. So they sliced out a piece of my cervix. And that was when I was 21. So if I had just like kind of pushed away that I had felt off, that something was wrong with me, then I wouldn't have gotten treatment. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, we really as women have to get it together when it comes to that. But also, if you're voicing out how you're feeling, this proves that either way, they're not going to listen to you. They're not going to listen to you because of gender biasness in the hospitals. They're not going to want to listen to you. And I think that's why um, my biggest thing for women, especially like my clients, my massage clients that are pregnant, I always tell them, you guys have to say something. And if something's going on in your delivery room, or you feel pain or discomfort or whatever, you need to speak up for yourself and you need to say something, because no one can read your mind and no one can read your facial expressions, and you need to speak up for yourself. And I've had so many clients say thank you for telling me that, because this happened and that happened, and you know what, you're right, and this and that. And you know, I just need women to speak up for themselves. Whether or not they want to listen to you is You know, you can literally file a lawsuit saying, hey, I explained that I felt this, and that, and the doctor wasn't listening to me. They didn't pay attention to me. I was injured, and that's why I should be winning this malpractice lawsuit. And that's what we need to learn. So, this is Eileen. I thank you for listening. This was hard for me to share. Thank you for being so patient with me. And I hope you guys have a great one. Please like this video, comment below if you've ever had something like that happen to you, and follow me, subscribe. And I have the Jaguar Society on Instagram. I also have the website if you want to get more PDF stuff and information about my prenatal care course, which is the first trimester, second, and third trimester. You can go right ahead, links below. Thank you guys so much.